All right, welcome to our artist interviews with several of the artists from the Botanical Art Collective of North Texas summer show here at the Botanical Research Institute of Texas. My name is Erin Starr White. I'm the curator of the Madeline Samples exhibit hall here at BRIT. And I had the pleasure this summer of jurying the exhibition for the Botanical Art Collective. There were some hard choices to be made. One of those choices first was choosing which artists. There were so many good submissions. The second was having the show online. As many people, as everyone is dealing with the pandemic, we're all finding new ways of doing things. And it was never a choice for us to cancel the exhibition. We just needed to reimagine what it could look like. And so while I am saddened that the works of art in the exhibition are not in our gallery, looking at art is so important, especially in person. I feel that it is a good experience still to look at the exhibition online. So I invite you to do that. I imagine if you're looking at this video, you have already looked at the online exhibition. So what we're doing is interviewing several of the artists whose work is in the show. I want to start with Lotus McElfish. And I have a few questions. Lotus is here with us today. And Lotus, thank you for joining us.
We're very Thank you, I'm honored.
Yeah, and Lotus and I were chatting before we started, and she is from Texas Hill Country. So, you know, I'm up in North Texas. You've got a little bit different typography, a lot of the same plants. Yeah, so I think that I was very taken with Lotus's work. It's very delicate, very beautiful. And so I wanted to ask you, Lotus, what brought you to botanical art?
Well, I have kind of a change of life story with that in my late 50s. And I can't believe that it's almost 15 years now that my husband and I, we decided to do a whole different life change, our occupation, our location. And we did this road trip back east to figure out our location, trying to find an artsy community, something that we might enjoy. We'd lived in Colorado and California, and it was just getting too beyond our means. So in this road trip, you know, you have a lot of time in the car. And we were trying to figure out what we really wanted to do. And I said, well, let's kind of figure out what our passion is, because people say, oh, you need to do your passion in your life. And so then things aren't work. So I started to articulate what my passion was. And it was like taking hikes. It was learning the healing of herbs. It was foraging plants to make wreaths while my husband was fishing. When we had the hot springs business, I got into aromatherapy. So I started articulating all this. And I realized it was everything botanical. And I wanted to get back into my art. I wasn't trained then. And I just blurted out, I want to be a botanical artist. And that's how it started.
Oh.
And then ever since then, I've been learning. I didn't know watercolors, so I had to learn that. It was a huge learning curve. And then moving to Texas, I didn't know the plants, but I just gradually, and I'm still learning. So that's my beginning.
Wonderful. I like that story a lot. It's kind of like choose your own adventure.
Yeah, and to not look back and get a job, you know. So yeah. I just really forged forward, and we make our living with art festivals and everything. So okay. That's what my husband's a word worker.
Okay, wonderful. What a team you guys are.
I know. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. Well, my next question, and I immediately want to talk about watercolor because I myself am getting into watercolor, and I've always been intimidated by it. Oils and acrylic and all that is fine, but watercolor's always kind of scared me, but it's really wonderful. And I'm wondering if you could describe your process to us. I know that you use all sorts of different media.
Right, right. Well, I thought, first of all, I would just show my entry. Each of my entries, I have 3 of them, have a different process. And so I can kind of go through that and
That'd be
then
great.
get to the watercolor.
Thank you. Excellent.
So on this one, the nature walk, this was during a hike in Dillon, Colorado. And don't we wish we were all there right now? In the summer, we would go to Colorado to do the art festivals because it's so hot in Texas, and we do the other ones throughout the other year here. And I have family there. I'm a native there. And so I just love hiking in the mountains. And this was near Dillon, and it was around a lake. And it caught my eye because it was just this vibrant color coming out from the ground, and all of the debris was all around it, and it was all brown and everything. So knowing that I couldn't do the painting there, I brought home specimens, little pine cones and needles, and a few of the leaves, and a photo. I usually don't work from photos, but this one I did because it just captured my heart. So I brought it home and did it that way. And it is watercolor pencil I used for the Oregon grape. And then the surround is ink. And I don't work a lot in ink. Sometimes it's just outlines. But this one I did stippling. And if you know stippling, you do a little dot, 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 dot. And so it's very Zen-like, very, very tedious, but it was like a puzzle, and I just really enjoyed it. So that was just a different thing for me. Then on the autumn sage, can you see it there? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful.
This was commissioned by the Herb Society of America. And it was for their, I think it was their 85th issue. And the herb of the month was sage. So they wanted a sage. And I thought of the autumn sage, which is one of our natives. And being Herb Society of America, it could be anything all over the world, but I wanted something that was from Texas. And so my process with that, and pretty much what I do with all of my artwork when it's purely botanical, is that I do a little collection form. I found this when you pick plants and you record where you found it and everything. So that's what I do with most of my plants, and I research a lot with so that I have a lot. It's kind of like you fall in love with a specimen and then you want to know everything about it. And I'll look up different things, like what are the plant parts. So as a botanical artist, I want to make sure that I have things correctly. I observe a lot, and I have a live plant. With this one, I bought a plant and had it right in my studio so I could record and do lots of different studies on it. Then for this one, because it was a cover, I did different compositions. So with the specifications that they wanted, and then I chose that one. So that's a little of that process. And then I do studies. So I wanted this to be larger than life size. And I don't usually do that. I usually do things at the size. And so I did different studies of it. And then the color, oops, can you see the color?
All your samples. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like your process is very in depth, and
it is. Yeah. And it takes a long time.
That's great though.
So then the composition, And on this, I just did a bit of a tonal, a quick tonal on it, not in depth. And I sent this to them via email just to see if I was on the right track, if it's what they wanted, because I wasn't going to develop this and have to start all over again. And they loved it. And they said, we like it black and white. And I went, because I had something in color, but I really didn't have a lot of time because I was going to go on this trip.
Yeah.
And so I was like ecstatic because I love graphite. And if it sold better, then I would do more of it. But so my process with the graphite is, if you see all these different pencils, I take it from 6H all the way to 8B. So these are all different grades of tonal quality for your drawing. And so it's not just, you know, making something really dark. You just build it up and build it up and build it up.
And Lotus, do you do any kind of, oh, beautiful. What? That's beautiful. Do you do any kind of spray fixative once you're done over the?
Yes. Yeah, I do very carefully. You have to really hold it way back and make sure you're not doing globers on it.
Yeah.
It depends. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Looking at the image of that piece, I wondered what color the original sage was. It looks like it was red.
It was red, yeah,
okay.
Bright red. And it was quite a challenge, because when I was working with the different colors with the watercolor, how to get that vibrancy and how to get the right tonal. Because what I do with watercolor is that it's usually in glazes. So it's I don't mix a lot of colors. So the color from underneath, you put a glaze on top and on top, and the color underneath starts to radiate through and creates the green, or it creates the color that you want. So with the red, instead of just having it one tube red, it was kind of hard to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my next question, oh, you have one more, don't you?
I do.
Yeah, we need the pecan. We're in Texas. We need a pecan.
I know. Well, with the pecan, let me see if I can do well, anyway, with the pecan, we were in Johnson City with my husband and I, and it was in the fall, and I went over to the courthouse to see if I could pick some pecans, because usually you can find a whole bunch of pecans on the ground and you can gather some things. And as I was doing that, I looked up and I saw this one specimen, and I went, oh my gosh. It was love at first sight. It was like, I've got to have this. And it was a little high for me. So I told my husband, I would really like that. Can you reach that? And what he did is he cupped his hands and lifted me up, and I got the twig with the ripening pecan on it. And so I brought that specimen home, and I have a thingamajig here that I clicked to the table. And so I just clicked the stem right there. And so it was just, you know, like right in my eyes as I was doing everything. And again, I guess my process is I research it, do the study. This one I did really quickly. I didn't do a real involved study because they're big tonal. I did a really quick tonal one so that I had record of the lights and the darks. So I captured that in my painting. And I just didn't want the specimen to die on me. So I worked quite quickly. And this was the painting. So here's our state tree.
Yeah. I have to ask, because people love to ask this question.
Sure.
For viewers, how long, when you say you worked quickly, about how long did it take you to complete that?
It takes a lifetime. No, it takes weeks. It takes weeks. It depends on the specimen. Like the one I was going to talk to about the native plants that I do and the rare and endangered. And this one I just finished, the wine cup. Now this one took like 2 years because I did do an involved study. It was a plant on my property, but whenever I started to really paint it, something else would come through, or a commission, or I have to do an art festival, and I put it back in the drawer, and I put it back in the drawer. And this year during the COVID, I finally finished it, so I'm really happy with that. It's quite an accomplishment. So with those, I do it mostly out in the field. I do a lot of the sketching there. And especially with the rare and endangered plants, you have to usually be escorted by somebody because you have to find the habitat for it. And so you're just sitting there all day with that plant and making recordings and of pencil and color studies. And like I say, I usually research the plant a little bit before I go, because then I know what I'm looking for. Right. And you just have to plod on. So it's hard to answer that question because each one's a little different.
Oh yeah, it sounds like you have a different relationship with each plant and with each piece.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Well, I had 2 other questions, but you've answered them already.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. The last thing I'll ask is there a special story behind one of the pieces? And you told the story of your husband lifting you up to get the baton.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I kind of covered the stories on each one of them.
Okay.
I think the only let's see, there was one other question I thought.
What is your relationship to plants and nature?
Oh, yeah, right. I think what I wanted to just bring out that is just sort of immense, it's just part of me. And when we first bought our property, it was 15 years ago, it was totally burned out, only the oaks on it left. And I think that's what got me thinking about the conservation of plants and how we were just kind of raping the land instead of letting some of the natural plants grow. So we live on a hillside, and there was no way I was going to put lawn up, or my husband either. So we just let the land be and started to restore it. And this birthday, I recorded like almost 30 new trees, shrubs, and vines that just are on our property that wasn't there before. We didn't plant them. And I think that's something that I love using my art as conservation. And that kind of started with a grant that I had from the American Society of Botanical Artists. And one of the stipulations for getting the grant was educating people and then give back to the organization that sponsored me. And so I was, through those beginning years, I just developed such a deep love for using my art for conservation and hoping that people will see the plants more and protect them.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Erin. This is brilliant.
Thank you for participating. This idea of plant blindness, that people, there's plants constantly, we can't live without them, but people don't notice them. So that's part of our mission here at BRIT is, and the Fort Worth Botanic Garden, is that, we kind of wake people up to see what's around them and to hopefully and then take care of it. It's really, really important. So I'm really glad that you've shared what you have. I will say, I don't recall if I said it at the beginning, so I'll say it now. This online exhibition of the Botanical Art Collective of North Texas work is online through August 21st. So it went up June 19th, and you've got about 2 months to enjoy it. And I really hope that if you haven't already gone online to see the exhibition, you do. It's brit.org, and then you can find the exhibition tab. And there you go. So I think it's time to sign off. Lotus, thank you so much. And it was wonderful to see
Thanks.
a bit of your studio and your process. I think that's always really interesting to find out how.
Yeah. And if you want to see more, I'm on Instagram.
What is your handle on
Lotus_McElfish.
Instagram?
Lotus_McElfish.
Okay,
And
Lotus
I do
McElfish.
videos on that, and I work, the work in progress, and kind of see what's on my art table today. So I do a lot with that.
Wonderful. And so for those of you watching, it's Lotus, Lotus _McElfish, correct?
Yep.
Okay,
Correct.
you have the best name, by the way.
Oh, thanks. I also have a blogs that I've done on the endangered plants.
And what is your blog?
That's in the link. It's endangered and not so much. So I cover a lot of things with the endangered plants, and then I also honor other artists in some of the blogs that are using their art for conservation as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. This is very informative and delightful.
Thank you, Erin.
And hopefully next year we'll be able to do this in person.